All right, welcome everybody back to the Dictate the Game podcast, episode 7. We have a full house today. We have Ryan, creator of the website.
Good
Ryan,
evening,
hello.
good morning, wherever you may be.
Guy is here.
Hi, how you doing?
Mr. Ihor, Crusader Star, is here and be talking about his Shadow Striker article.
Oh, good morning, guys.
And triumphantly back from holiday, Luke Hume of Hume's Bakery.
Nice plug.
Wow.
So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. A lot of FM stuff from the articles from this past week and stuff around the FM articles that we had on dictatethegame.com in real life. So we're going to start out with Maurizio Sarri going to Juventus. We predicted it here on the podcast and at the website not too long ago. Actually, I said that he was going to be forced out from Chelsea, and they shouldn't do it, but they did it anyway. So he goes ahead and he goes to Chelsea, goes from Chelsea to Juventus. And breaking news as we're going on the podcast today, right now, not only is he's going to be lining up with Ronaldo, he has all these great players. They just signed in defensive back Matthias de Ligt from Ajax, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Oh, wow. That's a good signing. My God.
I didn't know it was announced. I know they...
It was announced. It just got announced on Twitter. I just saw it. So he is officially going to be a Juventus player.
Wow. I thought he was going to go to Liverpool. That was my guess. But
I thought Man United.
Yeah, there was a lot of clubs after him, wasn't there? But yeah, it's a really good signing for Juventus, I think, especially when they've got is it Daniele Rugani as well?
Yeah, Rugani, yeah.
So if those two sort of break through together, that could be a really impressive centre-back pairing.
And imagine, not only that, but the three, of Chiellini, Bonucci, and I'm blanking on his name now.
Oh, Luke and Mike, sorry. You're fucking hell, Luke.
Oh, there he goes. All right.
Yeah.
That was the ASMR we were talking about.
I'm trying to listen to what you're saying, like in it.
It sounds like you're playing Battlefield or something.
I don't know. Well, I've just came off Battlefield and I'm getting like flashbacks from it.
All right, so we had a article at dictatethegame.com kind of previewing Sarri's first year at Juventus, and I have to say, after the simulation went through, it was a surprising result. It would be a result that I don't think is going to happen, but it would be a result that would be really interesting to me. We had Napoli beating Juventus by 1 point in the league.
I know, I've seen that as well, yeah, but you think Juventus lost the least games as well, but they just couldn't put the games away. They've drawn 9. According to your sim, but you don't know how Sarri would play, and obviously it's football manager, you can't take too much from it. But like with the sort of the key players you've sort of used, that was obviously going to change because you've got Bonucci and Chiellini, and then de Ligt coming through as well. So it's who comes out, who comes in, because you've got all these competitions you're going to be playing for. But obviously, Man Ronaldo scoring 14 goals. It's not even the best conversion rate, really, for Ronaldo.
But also, Napoli is quite strong in the game. I've seen them win Champions League in one of my saves. Like in the first season, they won the Champions League. So they have a good squad.
Mm. You also have to think that that's not with Conte at Inter.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that are going to happen. You can basically get in the team that you want to get in through your own transfers, but you can't replicate what's not happened yet coming up with other teams around the league. So, but still, I mean, I found that interesting. It was very ironic that Napoli beat them by 1 point. Although I got to say, I don't think that that's going to be what's going to happen this year. I think that Juventus is going to walk away with it.
I completely agree.
I think it could be a lot closer than people might think. I think with the upheaval that there's going to be at Juventus with the change of Allegri, I mean, he's been there for a hell of a long time. So I think it could make a big difference with him leaving. And then with Conte coming back to Inter, he knows the league really well. If he gets the backing of the board there and gets some good signings in, I could see Inter really sort of challenging this year. Trying to push Juventus off that top spot, I think.
But even with Juventus, you've also got a lot of new players coming in, like really, really big reputation players and trying to get them all to settle in, play a certain way.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably be very, very hard, especially because like in the footballing world, they're all, like I said, with the reputation so high, they want to have their amazing individual performance as well as team performance, and whether they'll sacrifice their sort of stardom for that is a completely different matter.
Yeah, and they actually.
Oh, sorry, go on.
But they actually don't have. There's some issues around financial fair play. I was reading recently because of the Ronaldo transfer. They spent so much money. They don't actually have that much money to spare in terms of FFP. So I wouldn't be surprised if De Ligt is the only sort of transfer that they go for, and then they just kind of settle things from there. So yeah, it could be interesting to see how they do. Sorry, go on, Ryan. You were going to say?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, these players would probably seem very up for like the bigger games, the big occasions, but it's coming up against like Udinese, Torino, Chivo, and all them sort of teams where they're probably maybe a bit too composed, and that's when you start slipping points up. It's all well and good beating the bigger teams, but as soon as you come up against someone who's a bit more compact, very direct, and you're completely dominating possession, but you can't break through, that's when you need your key players to just have that little bit of a spark. And whether or not they can do that is a completely different story.
I think it'll be Chelsea sat with his mic slow. I can't see Lampard doing the business.
What?
I can't see Lampard doing one at Chelsea.
We're on about.
No, but I know what I'm saying is I think they'll be alright, but Chelsea will regret getting rid of Sarri.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
I would agree. I mean, I don't think that. I don't know what the odds are. Maybe somebody could look up the odds about the next manager at Chelsea too, as we're talking. But it's interesting.
It's pretty much now on Lampard.
I think it's pretty much down on Lampard too. And I mean, he's going to need time. Lampard is going to need time for sure to be able to make that team what he wants it to be. So, and I don't think that there's a time that's going to be given.
I mean, Chelsea don't give time. And that's pretty obvious. They've had more managers. They've had 12 managers in the last 15 years, I think.
Yeah, and they don't give them enough time, and he is going to need time. That's going to be a rebuild. There is definitely going to be a real rebuild going on at Chelsea, which is sad because they came in third in the league. This is not necessary to have to go and rebuild that team, but they're going to need to do it just because of the way that they've been, I guess, assessing their own worth within the league. I mean, if you're a team that gets third after the epic seasons that Man City and Liverpool had, you don't want to take that. You want to, piss off your manager and have him go somewhere else and then bring in a club legend, which I understand why you would want to do that, but you're not going to do that and be at the top of the league fighting for first or second place.
I saw something on Twitter, like almost like Roman is he's happy for him to be third, fourth, get the money in, but he doesn't want to put any real money in it anymore. Because obviously Lampard had been a much lower wage than someone like Sarri will be. I mean, there must be a huge, huge cut, surely. At least 40%, I would have thought.
I think Roman Abramovich has said he's done investing now, and that's it. So whoever's coming in is going to be using the youth academy a lot more, I can imagine. I've just looked up the odds there, and Lampard is 8-1 odds on. So massive favourite for the job. But I read in the paper today that Derby are going to be offering 10 million, I think, in like a new contract, like a 5-year contract or whatever. Yeah, to try and get him to say. But I don't really think it's about the money for him. I think if Chelsea want him to take the job, then he'd probably take it. But I think he's on holiday at the minute. They were saying in the paper. So.
Probably if he does go to Chelsea, we've seen it with a lot of former players. I mean, you think of Stuart Pearce at Forest. He didn't work out for him there, and if he goes, it might sort of tarnish his legacy.
Yeah,
that's the only problem.
I mean, Alan Shearer at Newcastle, he came in when we were already basically relegated, but he took us down that year, the first time we got relegated. It kind of leaves a bitter taste in the mouth.
Mourinho third spell?
Yeah, it can sort of.
I can't see that happening, though. I can't see that happening.
I love Mourinho, but I don't think it will happen.
I just don't know what they can do really, because even with Lampard, it's people think it's a big risk, but I don't think he's ready. Like
He's not ready.
yeah, and it's just I think if he didn't have his reputation of a Chelsea legend,
He wouldn't get locked at
Yeah.
all.
but I don't know who they can physically go for, because how can you go from third? That's probably in the toughest league, well, the toughest competition with Man City and Liverpool being as good as they are. How can you better that? I don't think anyone could. You might not like the way Sarri played, but he got results.
I mean, you think of it also, we've got a transfer ban, and it doesn't look like they're going to appeal it.
No, they have appealed it, I believe. To try and get it
happened?
reduced. We briefly spoke about this in the last podcast.
Should I just give you some of the names on the list after Frank Lampard? There's Luis
I hope
Enrique,
I'm on it, yeah.
who's just left Spain, I think. And then Mourinho's third, Allegri fourth, Claude Makelele fifth.
Wow.
And Nuno Espirito Santo and Rafa Benitez as well. So, I mean, yeah.
I can see the Rafa one.
Slim pickings, really, isn't it? It's looking like Rafa Benitez is going to go.
I think he's going to leave Newcastle. Which is blame him?
Not at all. No.
Thinking about if Rafa did go to Chelsea for a second spell, that could be interesting, because what he's actually done with Newcastle is really, really well. He's limited funding.
Done a tremendous job with us.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's like limited funding, brought in the right players, sort of don't really see any players in the media for the wrong reasons anymore. He sort of calmed the team down and made it sort of steady, because I think a lot of other managers would have got Newcastle relegated a long time ago.
Massively, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that could work, because he won't cost Chelsea anything, because his contract's up at the end of the season.
Will he want to go to Chelsea permanently?
I think that's the question.
Well, you can't. It's Liverpool. He got such a.
Well, he's already been at Chelsea, but I mean, the Chelsea fans didn't like him. The Chelsea fans didn't like him, so I can't imagine if he went back there that they'd like him again.
It's a different calibre, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Chelsea, you've got an unbelievable system of youth players. Well, they're all out on loan half the time, but you've got so many players to choose from. But with a transfer ban, you can't really adjust to make your sort of changes. So it is weird.
Yeah, I don't think he's always been a manager who's wanted money,
his own sort of thing. Yeah,
his own squad. So with the transfer ban, I can't see him going there.
Or is it 2 transfer wins or 2 seasons ban?
I think it's 2 seasons, I believe, but they're trying to get it reduced to next season or January, I think.
Ryan, you brought up a big issue with Chelsea, as I see it, is the fact that they have all these great youth players. They send every single one of them, basically, except for 2 out on loan. And then they end up not being able to, it seems like, scout them properly. I don't know, because then they don't use them. They come back and they end up transferring them out, and they end up becoming huge stars other places. So maybe Lampard is going to be a guy, if he does end up going to Chelsea, that is going to use youth. If that's going to happen, then we see Chelsea in a way changing the culture of how they do things, and maybe it's for the better.
I completely agree. In terms of the youth players, I mean, not even youth players, you've got key players like Kurt Zouma. I mean, he should. Well, he would walk straight back into the Everton team if ever they allowed him. But they have so many good players, but they also got so many bad players. I mean, that guy would probably back me up on this, Christian Atsu.
Yeah,
so bad.
I don't know how he gets a game. To be honest, like, he's quick. That's literally all he can do. Yeah, so he just runs down the wing, and then he's got no final ball. He's terrible at shooting. Like, he's got no ability about him. But that kind of shows you the job that Rafa Benitez has done at Newcastle, when that those are the kind of squad players that we're dealing with. Outside the first team, there is a massive dearth of quality. Like, there's really not a lot of quality at the club at all.
Obviously, sorry, you continue.
Yeah, he's just got us playing the right way and the right tactic to keep us in the league, and we don't concede many at all. Keep things tight at the back, and then hit people on the counter with sort of Rondon and Perez, and Almiron, who's come in January as well, has done really well. So yeah, it's not looking good at Newcastle. I don't think if Rafa leaves and then there's all this news of the takeover, which I don't know what's going to happen with that. So yeah, it's not looking great, to be honest.
Obviously, the big sign at Chelsea will be Pulisic from Dortmund.
Yeah,
But
he's very good.
We actually talked to Fernando on our second podcast, one of our podcasts, and he said he doesn't think he'll be good enough for Chelsea.
Fernando from Metro Fan TV from the US, the Red Bull fan channel. Yeah, and he says that he didn't. Well, and I think that his point was, does Chelsea use young players? Not really well. If Lampard goes in there, or if you get another manager that's going to go in there that's going to use them, then that could be a different story at that point, right?
Yeah, I think if it is Lampard, then a lot of these fringe players who've been out on loan will get their opportunity. You think of like Tammy Abraham, who's done well in the Championship, and Mason Mount and people like that who Frank Lampard's had at Derby. I could imagine them getting a chance in the first team if he does take over there.
So kind of put a bow on this conversation with this. I'll ask you each individually this question. If you're Roman Abramovich, you can't go into the UK, but you can sit there in Russia and you could decide who you want to have for your next coach out of the people that we talked about. Enrique, let's throw Allegri in there, Rafa Benitez, Mourinho for a second time, or Frank Lampard. Who do you pick? We'll go to Ihor first. Who do you pick of those five? And why?
Oh, I think I've been thinking about it, and I'm sort of a little biased, from the last article that I wrote about Mourinho at Porto. I think I would like to see him do a second try with Chelsea, see what he can do. I mean, I think he still has it. He had a few bad years, but why not?
Hi, what do you think?
I would go with Allegri. I think if it was me, I just don't know whether he would want the job. But if I could pick anyone, then he would be the manager I would have in there.
I'll go with Mourinho for the third time. Personally, I think he's probably, for me, still the best tactically manager in the world. Personally,
Ryan, what do you think?
I think we should just give it to Luke Hume. I think he deserves it.
Mark Benjamin.
You could try your win more tactic.
Score more. Doesn't
Score
win more.
Yeah.
Score more.
Yeah, it's
Score
definitely
more.
not win more. It's definitely not the win more tactic. Can you imagine Chelsea walking out in their nice blue jerseys with a big Hume's Bakery sponsorship on the front?
Sensational.
All right, we want to talk to Ihor about a little bit about Brazilian football, which is a great topic always, in an article that he wrote about the shadow striker and the false nine in FM coming up in just a few minutes. But first, I want to let you know, dictatethegame.com, the website for you to go to for everything football and football manager. We have not only tactical guides on there, we have great retrospectives on different things that have gone out through history. We have stories. Ihor's Dynamo project is great. We have Living the Dream from Luke Hume. We have a whole bunch of great stuff going on right now at dictatethegame.com. So make sure you're checking it out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have new articles, and we have the podcast every Sunday at dictatethegame.com. And speaking of dictatethegame.com, one of the articles that we had, I believe it was just on Friday, was how to use the shadow striker in FM, using a lot of examples from Brazilian football and, of course, the great Pelé. We have Ihor here, who is the writer of the article, and I had to say that I really enjoyed it because it's not a tactical, it's not a position that I use personally a lot because I don't really understand how to use it properly. But you really walked us through how to use it properly and to be able to make it an impact player within your system.
Oh, thank you, Eric. I think it's been really like a role that I wanted to write about for a while now. I think it's really like, as I say in an article, it's one of my favorite, if not the favorite role in any version of Football Manager. I think it goes back to the very first Football Manager that I played, like Football Manager 2014. I think that's when it was first introduced, and I've used it a lot over the years, and I'm happy to say it still works really well in Football Manager 19. And really, like the reason why I used Brazilian football, and Pele is an example. I think that he was really the original shadow striker. Even before it was really called that, I think he was he was very much a false 10, the player that operates in a attacking midfield position, but throughout the game just moves forward to attack. I think even though he played as an attacking midfielder in his throughout his life, he scored more goals than any striker in history, which is really amazing. And yeah, so I sort of try to build. I mean, my article is a bit more theoretical than analytical, or because I really sort of I spend more time just sort of explaining the role and the best ways to use it. But I unfortunately didn't have as much time to give a lot of sort of examples from my save, which in the future I'm hoping to actually maybe to come back to this tactic and write more about it, sort of to show more sort of proof of its effectiveness. Not sure which team I would do that with. I'm sort of looking at some teams who have good players. Even speaking of Chelsea, I'm actually Gonzalo Higuain, I find, is actually one of the best shadow strikers. I mean, his attributes are just ideal. I mean, he's a bit older, but he actually doesn't have attacking midfielder in his natural position. He's purely a striker. But I don't really care about that. I mean, I'm just gonna put it. I put a player, as long as he has the attributes, I'll play him in the shadow striker position, and he's gonna perform well. And I do have a Chelsea save that I'm actually working on, and it's going pretty well. What about you guys? Have anybody tried using shadow striker in the past?
Yeah, I've tried, but I used I think it was George Green. He used to be an Everton youth prospect. He's playing. I think he's playing at Chester now. He had a few personal issues and is sort of been in rehabilitation and stuff. But he's a very good shadow striker, because I sometimes play with an attacking midfielder, and sometimes I feel like the ratings don't really do them justice, and then sometimes I feel like they're so not involved in the game and just have no influence whatsoever. And he was the first person I've ever used as a shadow striker. Bear in mind, this is lower league, so when I used to play 4-2-3-1 down this was a couple of seasons ago, but I've not really used it now. As for some reason, I've just almost stuck with the 4-4-2 or a sort of variation on a 4-3-3. Not really used to shadow striker, because if you look at the role, it says it's the main person for goal scoring, and for me, that's my striker, and I don't really want my attacking midfielder. Well, I'd love it if they could, but I don't feel like you get enough out of them as the shadow striker, producing as many goals. So I always try and go for an advanced playmaker usually now, but I don't know. It is weird, because the shadow striker role is so effective. How you've explained and how you've done. You need the right player for it though, because you're very reliant. Like the description says, it's the main source of goals, and if you don't have that perfect, you're essentially playing with 10 men going forward. So you've got to sort of get that balance.
It's tricky for sure. But I find what's interesting though, it is a position that you can use in pretty much any level. I find even if you enjoy playing in lower league, you can still find good shadow strikers. Basically, the way I see it is just you take a striker and you just put him in an attacking midfield position, and he's going to perform well, just because you have that element of surprise, right? He's coming in from a different, and if you have a supporting striker in front of him, usually maybe a good, strong target man type of striker, but with a bit more creativity than a typical target man. So more of a deep lying forward type, which you could still find in a lower league. If you have that kind of player in front of him, sort of drawing the defenders away and dropping back, then if you have a really sort of aggressive and player with a good offensive movement, off the ball movement, behind him, then I think the goals are going to come. It's just a matter of I think persevering and getting him more comfortable with the system.
Yeah, I used the 4-4-1-1 formation when I was I think on one of my saves this year. I can't remember which actually, with sort of a DLP and a box-to-box in central midfield. And I found a shadow striker paired with a deep line forward on attack as my front my 1-and-1 worked really well together with the deep line forward just sort of occupying the defenders, just left a lot of room for my shadow striker to contribute, sort of running off the back of him. So yeah, I think paired with one forward, I tend to get a lot more out of it. Whereas at the moment I'm playing like a 5-2-1-2, and I'm using and Gansh as my number 10, as sort of like the main playmaker in the squad. So I don't think a shadow striker is quite what I'm looking for in that situation. But yeah, it can be really effective. Like you say, it's just utilizing it in the right sort of formation.
Yeah, it's getting the classic pairing of, like you said, deep lying forward and a shadow striker. I mean, false nine could work well too if you have a really creative player but that's more, I guess, for a top level team, somebody who because it's rare that you could play with a false nine when you're in Champions League, in Championship or League One.
So this brings up a good point. Actually, the Byline, the official Football Manager website's blogging space, they had talked about how to retrain a player this past week. And by the way, before I go on, I just want to say thank you so much to the Byline for having Dictate the Game on. We're an official contributor to the Byline now, and we're really proud to be able to be doing that, and we'll be doing it much more coming down the road. So they are talking about retraining players and how to go ahead and do that. And it seems like, Ihor, you're talking about taking one of those strikers, because you've mentioned it a lot with Higuain and things like that, taking them and kind of retraining them to be a straddle striker in that AMC role.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't even retrain them. I just stick them in there and I play them, and they perform well. Like, I mean, the way I think the way I see it is, as long as he has the attributes, and even if he doesn't have the natural position, like, I mean, eventually he's gonna get a bit of even just by playing him, he's gonna get some like, I guess the little yellow circle is gonna develop. But I mean, to me, those circles on his position map, like, they really, like, they don't mean anything. Like, I'm not the one to try to get them like fully green on the tactics. I think it's not it doesn't have anything to do with the actual performance. It's more of a visual aid, I guess.
Yeah, that's something I see a lot of new people making, that kind of mistake, like not really thinking about their tactic, more thinking about, oh, this player's an inside forward, so I have to play him as an inside forward because
exactly.
Those little green dots, I try not to pay too much attention to those, as long as you know how your tactics work and stuff. And like you say, as long as they've got the attributes for the role that they're performing, then that's the main thing.
I think they take a little hit on decision making. I think there is like maybe a bit of like some sort of mild penalty on decision making, like, from what I understand. But I don't think it makes a huge difference in the end.
Yeah, like on my save, I've got Filip Kostic, who is traditionally an attacking midfielder, I think, like a wide left attacking midfielder. But I've got
Frankfurt, I think.
Yeah, but I've got him playing left wing back, and he's doing an amazing job there. He covers so much distance, and but he's just got the stats for it, so he works really well playing there. So.
Oh, I love doing that. I love sticking a winger, like a really fast, like aggressive attacking winger in a wing back position. Like, I find that's really gives you results, especially in a tactic that you really want to have like a lot of movement on the wings. Like, even in my the tactic I just for the shadow striker, I mean, you really have to have a lot of movement and space created on the flanks to give more space in the middle to the shadow striker. So it's a good idea to put, like, if you don't have a proper wing back, you can just put a really like a good physical winger on your flanks to use them as wing backs. And but then in that case, you have to make sure that your midfield is really holding more defensive midfield. You can't have them running forward Mazzala. You need like a deep lying playmaker, and maybe like a central midfielder on defense, or Carrilero.
Yeah, that's what
works well.
I use 2 Carrileros in my team, and that tends to work really well. I've got complete wing backs in sort of the defensive midfield strata, and those Carrileros tend to cover those spaces quite well.
Yeah.
So that kind of begs the question. We're talking about, different players you want to use in different roles and things like that, and it starts to get me thinking about FM 2020. So with that coming up in just a few months now, and we're getting into the off season, we start thinking about it. what are the teams that you really want to use coming up in FM 2020 that you're looking forward to the most?
For me, I always do a save as New York Liberals. Had done for like last 5 foot managers. And then I think literally I'll probably do one with Salford. Because they've got so much money. It is ridiculous. I mean, what is his name? That striker, Adam Rooney?
Yeah.
He's on $4,000 a week.
Yeah, he moved from Aberdeen, didn't he?
That was in the conference, so I reckon
Yeah.
he's got on more now.
Oh yeah, there'll have been
I thought there
bonuses
was
and
a
stuff, weren't
promotion
there?
clause in there.
Yeah.
So you put you on about $5-6 a week, and that does really tell a story about
Yeah, definitely.
Salford. And they're not the people make them out to be a sort of fairy tale, but it's quite easy to be one when you're pumped by 5 multi-millionaires.
Mm.
They're the pet project of Ryan Giggs, right? Salford. They're one of the.
There's a few classes of 92. Yeah, there's
pump a lot of
Ryan
money
Giggs.
into it.
Scholes is involved, isn't he? And
Scholes,
Gary
Beckham.
Neville and
Wow.
The Neville brothers.
Yeah.
Nicky Bat. And
The
you've got
class of
Peter Lim.
92.
yeah.
Peter Lim is also involved, I think. Who owns Valencia.
Do you guys go for your favorite team when you start up your first save, or do you go for a team that you think you want to, for some reason, improve or do differently than you think they're going to be coming up in the year forward?
I never go to Ipswich. I never do.
I can understand why you wouldn't go to Ipswich.
They're shit.
I tend to look for like an interesting story, whether that's, I don't know. So like this year I started out with a club called Trapani who are in Serie C because I wanted to start in Italy. So I just picked them as a random team, and then I looked at like notable players from the past, and Marco Materazzi had played there. So I decided to make my manager Materazzi, and then kind of make my team sort of emulate his style. So that's where the Mourinho piece came from that I did for the website. So I was trying to base my tactic around that and sort of like Machiavellian principles, as in sort of the ends justifying the means, and if you have to go out there and play dirty to win, then that's what we were going to do, kind of thing. So I don't know, I just tend to look for something interesting about a team that interests me and try and sort of sculpt that into something that would interest someone I'm writing the blog for, basically.
Yeah, me too. I look for interesting team. Like sometimes I do play my favorite team, which actually it's a Ukrainian team, but it's not Dynamo Kiev. It's actually my hometown team of Karpaty Lviv. But they're not doing so well. I mean, the last couple of seasons, so I haven't really played them. But maybe that's going to be a team I'm going to try in F20. Is really going back to the beginning.
I mean, for me, I don't know. I mean, I go kind of with my gut, and I mean, I'm really actually excited to see, and it would be the easiest save on earth, but I'm interested to see how the Real Madrid team shapes up in the transfer window and what they're going to play like on FM 2020, because I think that with the Jovic signing, with Rodrigo, how do you pronounce his name from Brazil?
Oh, yeah, Rodrigo.
Yeah, Rodrigo, yeah.
Rodrigo, I think that he's going to be a really interesting player for years to come. And with Vinicius Jr. on the same kind of lineup, if they can get them on the pitch at the same time, that's going to be a really interesting
Could be really exciting.
That's like they're really young strikers. Like imagine getting that trio. Like that's really. I got that. You got me interested in them too as well now.
Yeah, it's a football manager's dream, isn't it? Like with young Brazilian players coming through. Yeah. What more could you want? He's someone I actually signed on FM18 on my Ajax save. That Rodrigo Goiz. He was amazing for me. And I picked him up pretty cheap as well. So
I had him too in my FM18 save at Bayer Leverkusen. So
Leverkusen, yeah.
Leverkusen, he was good, really good player. Oh, sorry guys, I have to go. I have some errands to run this morning. But,
come on, you can't go. You can't. You're not allowed to go.
But it was really great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Well, I think that at this time, really, there's only one more thing to ask, and it says, "Is Luke? Do you have anything more to add?"
I think I've got a new favourite band that I have. I've fallen in love with the Jonas Brothers, I'm afraid.
Oh gosh.
Their music. Love their new album. I loved them as a child. I used to be who watched Disney Channel. Don't know if you were, anyone you were.
Yeah.
I loved their channel, their show Jonas. I loved
think
it.
I was too old for that. I was more
Came out-
sort of Hannah
came out-
Montana and Wizards of
Came out in
Waverly.
2010, I think.
Right.
I was about 9 then. No,
Yeah.
10.
So
They're
I
back
did.
together now, right, Luke?
Yeah, got back together
Oh.
this year.
Oof. Are they coming around town? Are you going to go see them?
Well, I'm coming to Wembley next year. I won't lie, I'm very tempted. My fear is only mile there.
I don't care what time of day it is in the United States. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. I want you to be able to be on the podcast while you're at the Jonas Brothers.
While you're at the concert.
Yeah,
It'll be the ultimate in noise in the background. It's like, Luke, can you can you mute your mic? I can't really hear you. Oh yeah, I'm at the Jonas Brothers concert.
Oh, I think mine would be more confused than ever.
If you really want to piss Ryan off, do that.
Well, it's a lot of money just to piss Ryan off. I won't lie. I'm going to O2 on Wembley. I won't lie. I'm very tempted to go to one of them. But I think the Jonas Brothers, most of their fans are probably female.
Do you think so?
I think so. I would say
Yeah.
so. Especially back in the Disney days, I would say they're mostly teenagers.
They're grown men now, right?
Yeah, all married now.
So they'll be
Wow.
talking about in between songs. They'll be talking about investments and things like that.
One of them married is Sophie Turner. Which I had no idea.
What are you? You're doing something right now.
Oh, probably move my iPad.
Okay.
No, one of them, not Nick. Joey married is Sophie Turner. Well, I had no idea about it. I guess you know who she is.
Oh yeah, she's
Game of Thrones.
Jean Grey in the X-Men movies.
I don't know, but perhaps she's in Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones too. Yeah.
No, I loved that TV show, Jonas. It was a weird show. I played played original characters with Jonas Band. So very very original idea.
That was very enlightening. That was very enlightening, Luke, and we appreciate it. And do you have anything else to add?
Nope.